Salut, je suis Rory. Aujourd'hui, je vais vous donner les 3 choses dont j'aurais aimé savoir avant d'avoir commencé mon apprentissage de français. Donc, commençons. In this video, you're going to know the 3 things that I wish I knew before I started learning French back in 2020. And they're 3 things that my students are currently making sure is in every single day of them learning French to get great results with me. So let's start. So firstly, grammar. Let's talk about that quickly. If you don't learn grammar, I'll end rewind. If your goal is to be good at French conversations, speaking, listening, conversing with others, being really good at being able to speak with anyone, that is your end goal. Speak fluently, basically. Well, if you just learn conversations and you learn stories, you learn how conversations are going to work and which sentences people say and how you can express yourself, you will naturally learn all of the grammar rules you need and you can ignore the rest. So what I tell my students is ignore learning grammar, just simply learn the conversations because all they want to do is communicate well, just like you. Well, learn the conversations, the grammar that you need, you'll learn, the rest you don't have to. Simple as that. The second point is with learning these conversations, in order to be good at speaking and communicating in French, you need to first be good at the inputs of French because we've got inputs, reading, listening, outputs, speaking, and writing. So if you get good at reading and listening, then you can start speaking because in a conversation, you need to first listen and then provide output, right? So if you do your reading and listening at the same time, you're going to save yourself a lot of trouble. Because if you're trying to get good at conversations, you need to have really keen ears, right? You need to be able to listen really well to pick up words, to pick up intonations, certain pronunciation of particular words. And in order to do that, well, do lots of reading with listening. When you listen, do reading. Every single time that your ears are trying to detect a word in listening, have a transcript there. YouTube videos, find ones that have French subtitles and English as well for a translation. If you're doing a podcast, well, do they have a transcript, right? If you're reading a book, is there audio to it? If there isn't, I think you're wasting time. All of my students in the first 3, 4, 5, 6 months of their learning, there's always the French captions there. Whether that's the textbook, ASML, I'll show you on screen here, or a YouTube video, they've always got the French captions. Simply because if they're listening to this video in French, perfect, don't read the captions. But the moment that they don't understand a word or a sentence, I tell them pause, rewind 5 seconds, rewatch that part while reading the subtitles. By doing that, they're correcting themselves on the spot and they're providing their ears with the support that they need. Okay. And now the third point, because firstly, we've said grammar, don't worry about it, just learn conversations. Secondly, in learning conversations, do the reading and listening of those conversations at the same time. And thirdly, bring English in. I see a lot of people, French tutors particularly, pushing people away, beginner French learners like yourself, pushing them away from English translation and saying, no, you shouldn't be translating, you need to think in the French. Okay, that's great. I agree. Think in French. But if your French is not good, how can you think in it? Thinking in French is really good once you're intermediate and advanced and fluent level, obviously, because you're obviously going to think in French when you have knowledge of French. But if you're a beginner level like you are, well, how are you meant to think in this language when you barely know any words, you barely know the accent, you can't do any listening without really seeing the French written out there? Use the English. You're fluent in English. You spent years and years and years getting really good, training your mind, training your brain to detect patterns, detect words, know all these sentences that you can use in daily conversation and that you can hear in daily conversation. Use that, leverage that to learn French. Simple way to do that is when I'm talking about the YouTube videos, right, watching them as a French conversation, all you need to do is simply find ones that have English subtitles as well. So what that means is every time you don't understand the French, you simply pause and you check the English. You literally do a comparison between the words in the sentence. Note that sometimes, or often even, there's going to be words that don't line up. Like you're going to have a French sentence that has 5 words, but then the English sentence only has 3. Simply because French and English aren't the same. If they were the same, you would already be fluent. So you don't have to worry about that. You will naturally learn it. Look, English is a Germanic language. French is a Romance language. Thing is, England and France on the map are like that. They're right next to each other. 30% of the words in English are from French origin. There's lots of crossover. The sentence structures are very similar, so you should no much problem here doing a comparison between French and English. The video I shot with Larry would have been even 2 months ago now. Time flies fast. He was just at day 40 of learning with me, and I showed on the video how he's using the Assimil book and comparing between the English and French and how you can do that. There's also any of the YouTube videos that I've shown off in my more previous, more recent YouTube videos showing how to use any of these YouTube videos, channels, resources that have the French and English subtitles. I've even created a playlist just recently. I'll show you on screen here. If you click the playlist back on my channel, you can see I've listed there's about 6 or 7 really good channels that my students all use. You can go in there, try those videos out. You might find them useful. And so, yeah, those are the 3 things I wish I knew at the start. If I'd have learned those things, I would have progressed way faster. I still did do very well because I learned them, say, after month 3, 4, 5, 6. I realized that, I just want to get good at conversations. Well, let me just learn the conversation by reading, listening at the same time, then speaking. And then I would also bring in English to learn because when I did the translation, I could then really follow the French. There's no point trying to learn the French without even using English. That just doesn't make any sense. Like logically, it's not going to work. Yes, you can force yourself through, and yes, eventually you'll learn the French by hearing enough and enough of it. But provide yourself with the answer on the spot so you're getting instant correction. If you were to see a French sentence, you had no clue what it said, you're never going to remember that. But if you can provide yourself with the answer, the English answer, and then you go back to the French and then you go, oh, that makes sense. Now I can break it up. So if you try out those 3 things in your learning of French, I think that'll be helpful to you. And yeah, best of luck.